Hello and welcome back to All for United, and more specifically, welcome back to the tactical preview. We're going to be looking ahead to the Wolves game at the weekend. Should be a really good game. It seems stylistically a very good match for United. So we'll be discussing all about that, the strengths, their weaknesses, and how United can win, as the title would suggest. I've got a great panel lined up for you, and I'll introduce them all after this.
Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Welcome back. As I said, two brilliant tactical minds joining me today. We should hopefully have a third. I think we're expecting Abdul, but not sure when he'll get here. But either way, Stu, Charlie, it's brilliant to have you on.
Pleasure.
Speak of the devil. Here he is. Hello, Abdul. You all right?
Hey guys, how are you? Sorry.
It's good to have. It's all right. It's good to have you boys on. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the Wolves game.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. You're all good now. But yeah, what game coming up? A big game as well, especially given the way our momentum's sort of halted.
Yeah.
Stu, I'll come to you first. What can we take from that Southampton game into this Wolves game, whether it be positive or negative?
I guess the fact we didn't lose for a start is one kind of positive. Look, I just didn't feel we were at the races right from kickoff. I did kind of say on the on Uncut that I think sometimes as a club and sometimes as a group of players, you've got to kind of take a step back as well as analyse your own performance. You've got to kind of analyse the opposition. And I'm not just talking about their pattern of play or any tactical approaches. I'm looking about collective approaches. And our group of professional footballers can make life difficult for any level of player. However, whatever the chasm of quality is between the two teams, more often than not, if you play as a unit, you play as a collective, you can be really difficult to beat. And Southampton are very much like that. They're a team of triers. They're not a team of world stars, but they're a team of triers. They've got the odd one or two players that can obviously play, such as Ward-Prowse, for example. But you've got very unfashionable footballers in there as well, like the likes of Romeu. And he almost, in many ways, gave, I'm not going to use the word masterclass because no footballer ever does that, but he gave a really good account of himself on how to play a solid defensive midfielder. And he didn't really get mentioned in and around the game, but those are types of players that make or can make your life difficult. And I find it quite tough to swallow that when you look at the talent that we've got at our disposal, the talent that started and the talent that's on the bench, and you're playing for a club like Manchester United, how you can't fathom a way around the likes of a player like Romeu or the likes of a player like Ward-Prowse and kind of build yourself into the game, build that momentum. Now, there were parts, most fans would argue we had 70, 80% of the game. If you look at it over 95 minutes, yeah, we probably did. And we created enough chances to win the game. You can create 2,000 chances, but if you don't stick the ball in the back of the net, those become an irrelevance. And I think, as I said on Cut, if I was Maguire, I'd have had the lads in and I'd have had a conversation about, how can a team like Southampton motivate themselves better than a team of Manchester United? And unfortunately, it happened to us all too often last season. And although it was very early on in the season, it was a bit of a worrying time for me. We spoke about Matic, we spoke about Fred, we spoke about McTominay. We're just going over old ground with those, which I don't want to cover tonight. But I think, if we've had a good, solid week of training, Sunday's not going to be easy, by the way. It isn't going to be easy at all. Away at Wolves never is. We've had a good, solid week of training, and we go with an attitude of defiance and an attitude of this will to win that we desperately need, then we should hopefully have a better performance than we did Sunday. But that's what I took out of it anyway. I mean, you can, as I say, you can analyse the game as much as we like, but you've got to look at the players. play responsibility. It's huge.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm glad you haven't just automatically crossed it off as a United win like you did last week, since that came back to haunt you. But
well, it did, it did. But it should have been though, shouldn't it? Really, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, Abdul, I'll come to you. It's brilliant to have you on again, mate. Obviously, we've not heard your thoughts on the Southampton game. So from what you were watching, what were the sort of positives and negatives that we take from that game and work on to implement in the Wolves game?
There were very little positives, I would say, except that, like Stu said, we didn't lose. I think we defended well. Like Southampton, to be honest, they got the lucky deflection, and the only other time they looked dangerous was when Armstrong got that chance one-on-one with De Gea. Other than that, they really did not have anything in the game. We defended the set pieces very well, and compared to last season when they had set pieces, we looked very, very shaky. They had one that was okay, but apart from that, I would say that's the positive. The negatives would be our build up is still not good at all. It needs to get fixed. Of course, a huge part of it is players, and a little part of it is the structure of how we build up. Um, and then the biggest one, and to me is the main reason why we didn't win this game, despite having just enough chances to win it, is the not having Cavani in the middle, not having someone who can finish off the chances. So most of our chances fell to Bruno, Greenwood, Pogba, and a set piece for Matic. They're all headers, and none of them could put the header even on target, let alone just try to make the goalkeeper work. So if that was Cavani, one of them would have went in, at least one. And yeah, so if we had Cavani, we would have definitely won this game 9 times out of 10, despite the other issues. But it just highlighted how much United, and I mentioned this in the latest article I wrote, we cannot sustain pressure because we can't build up effectively. We can't get the ball from defense to attack seamlessly. Just like how a City would do it, like how a Chelsea would do it. We have to struggle, especially if the opposition is very organized in their press. Their press is not wishy-washy, how they would say. Some like Southampton, we will struggle. We have enough quality to get by, but we will struggle building up. And the main reasons for them, apart from the structure, we can get onto it a little bit later. Goalkeeper and a DM. Unfortunately, De Gea, I love him. I love him to death, and I hate that I have to criticize him, but he does not get involved in the build-up. And because he doesn't get involved in the build-up, we can't have numerical superiority in our box when someone is pressing us very high. So that's one point. The second point is because we don't have DMs that are very capable on the ball. Now, Matic is capable on the ball, but he's moving so slow. So by the time Matic tried to make an angle for you, they already covered him. So that's one. And then you have Fred, who is, I know despite his performance, Matic is our best CM because just of his energy, the amount of actions he take, the amount of hassling he does, like what Fred can give you 2 performances that Matic can give you in one match. So if you play Matic 2 games in a row, right, the amount of actions Matic will do, Fred can do them in one match. So that's the thing about Fred, but he's very erratic with his passing. Like he has the right idea in his mind. He will go to the right angle, maybe receive the ball, and then just give it away, or just overhit the pass, or literally just pass it outside. So this is the problems that we have with our build-up shape. And lastly, and it's not immediate, and I know people like attacked me for it, was Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, as much as he's good one-on-one and good defensively, he's not comfortable on the ball. And this is where Southampton were trying to guide us all match down our right to press Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Lindelof to win the ball there. So these were the issues that we were facing.
Fair enough. Well, we'll talk about obviously how we can cover all of those in due course. But Charlie, I want to come to you. I want to pick up on something that Abdul mentioned earlier about the set pieces. Now, from my point of view, especially attacking set pieces, we look like a completely different team to last season in a positive way. So do you think that's something that we can sort of build on and we can really exploit against this Wolves team?
Yeah, well, that was obviously a big positive, the set pieces. Obviously, last season we conceded, I think it was over a third of our goals from set pieces, which is obviously a huge problem. And I said last season, even if you can cut 4 or 5 of those goals out, that's a huge benefit. And it's not just conceding from the set pieces; it's the sort of psychological advantage that teams can get over you if you're bad at set pieces, particularly if you're playing away from home to like a team like a Burnley. If De Gea's in goal, even if Henderson's in goal, they'll put pressure on the keeper. They, obviously Varane coming in. I think still not incredibly good aerially, but I think his stats are slightly better than Lindelof over his time at Real Madrid, but there isn't a huge amount of difference there. But yeah, attacking set pieces wise, I thought we looked dangerous. I thought the setup was good, but the final finish was lacking. I think at times we looked a little bit. Everybody looked a little bit worried. I think there was one that Bruno took, and it was in the first half. He took it from the right hand side. He took a free kick, and Lindelof missed it. He like a diving salmon. He went in like a salmon, and he missed it. And there was almost too many people going for the same. Everybody just got a bit confused. So, but yeah, we did look very dangerous on them. We were putting good balls in the box, but we just didn't quite have that final finish. And I think Martial had a little header as well, and Matic as well. And we did have some great chances. And that's obviously, Eric Ramsey, that's the job he's been brought in for. To be honest with you, lads, I don't think, I know it's modern football, but, a good coach, you shouldn't need an extra set piece coach anyway, in my opinion. But I know TalkSport got a bit. Danny Murphy said it on TalkSport, and he got a bit of stick. But I mean, come on, it's not that. I know it's a huge part of the modern game, and to be honest with you, if it works for us, fantastic. But I don't really like the way that the modern game's gone in terms of that, the set piece coaching. But we have to take advantage of it because everybody else is, so we just have to do it. But that's a huge positive, of course. I agree with the lads as well. Obviously, the build-up play was a huge issue. I think we saw, Matic and Fred often occupying the same areas when our defensive line had the ball. And, Matic, I've said before, sometimes he drops into a back three when we're trying to build up, and that obviously that has its advantages and its disadvantages. But he didn't do that particularly well at all against Southampton. Matic and Fred were both going they were both occupying the same areas, and it was just a nightmare. So yeah, I think Paul Pogba showed again for me against Southampton why how he impacts Bruno's game as well. I think we play much better as a team when Pogba plays on the left. That's just a personal thought that I've got. I don't know what the other lads think, but I think I love Marcus Rashford, and I think we all know Ollie will bring Rashford back in. We know he's going to start Rashford as soon as he's fit, but I would make him wait. I would keep Pogba on the left. Obviously, if we do sign Saul Niguez, a loan deal, obviously is the talk, then maybe Ollie will think about this 4-3-3. Whether he will do it or not, we don't know. And obviously then Pogba may become a left centre midfield player, so he might go back into that 3 in midfield. But yeah, for me, Pogba on the left again for the Wolves game, please. But yeah, some positives to take, but some big issues in terms of ball retention in midfield.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone can argue with that. Well, listen, we'll talk about obviously how we implement changes from the negatives now, sort of what needs changing going into this game from the Southampton game, whether it be personnel or anything. I'll start off with Stu, and we'll sort of create sort of an open discussion about this. Just anyone feel free to butt in. But Stu, I'll start with you. What needs changing, whether it's tactically or personnel-wise or anything?
Yeah, so the biggest problem that we had centrally was 2 left footers. And the problem that you've got with Matic and with Fred, they don't have a right foot. So playing against a single left footer is very, very easy because you just turn them back onto the right side as much as you possibly can. You do everything you can to disrupt them. And that was something that Romeo did quite well. He also harried Fred. He knew Matic is a bit more calmer on the football, but Fred's, as Abdel said, and we've spoken on many occasions, is a bit like the Energizer Bunny. If you harass Fred, his first touches are very, very good. You'll let it run 2 or 3 yards around him, and he was quite easily picked off. And so you've got a very one-dimensional midfield, which is always a problem anyway. We've spoken about Van der Beek. Myself and Abdel see Van der Beek in totally two different ways. But I think even Abdel might agree that Van der Beek would have given us a better balance alongside a Matic or alongside a Fred. Now, we can talk about Van der Beek forever because we have done. And I just felt that because don't forget, Southampton's they play a 4-4-2, Southampton, don't forget. They didn't play a 4-3-3, they didn't play a 4-2-3-1, etc. They play a 4-4-2. So that means they've got Ward-Prowse and they've got Romeo sitting in the middle. Now, when you've got somebody who's a little bit gifted like Ward-Prowse is, and then you've got Romeo's a destroyer. That's all he is. There's nothing about his game that is attractive, smart. It's a little bit how I used to play midfield. There's nothing about my game that was attractive or smart, but fuck me, I could tackle, and I could break the play up, and that's sometimes what you need in games like that. And I think with Matic, back when he was 25, 26, he was excellent at that. But when you play someone like Matic and Fred, you haven't got that same threat moving forward. So I think Ollie made a big mistake by not playing Van der Beek. It would have been Van der Beek with Fred or Matic. I think Matic would have been a better option. In terms of our transition, very poor, and that's something Abdel hit on it on what his opening speech, same with Charlie. Our transition. So when we get the ball, we can't transition it quickly. We can transition it okay side to side, but we can't transition it forward quickly enough. And I'm flabbergasted. And I can't keep coming back to professional footballers. When you're playing at the highest level, week in and week out, a basic ability is to transition the football 2 or 3 yards forward, not just to the side, left to right or back. And when you've also, as Charlie alluded to, when you've got two players that are basically covering the same turf, that's where it creates space in the width. Because when you look at Greenwood and when you look at... oh, crikey, I can't remember who played up top now. Pogba, sorry. Pogba, for me, and I take Charlie's point, by the way, but Pogba, for me, is better in a free roaming position. I don't like him out on the left. That's my own personal opinion. I think he's better in a free roaming. So coming back to our CDM situation, if you were able to trust a single player in there, whoever it may be, it will allow Pogba to have a bit more freedom. And you're quite right, Charlie, it unlocks Fernandes. But you can imagine if you've got two players with the similar freedom to crisscross, move up and down the pitch together, it makes it a much more dangerous front five. And that's what we need against low block. And I think at the minute, and I hate to say it, I'm probably going to get slaughtered for this, but at the minute, because we're playing with this double pivot, and I don't know about you guys, but I think it's hampering Sancho's game already. He's played 2 games, come on with 20 minutes to go in 2 games, and he's not really been able to affect the ball. He's not been able to affect the play, and this double pivot is a real fucking problem for it. So I think Ollie's got a big decision to make. I don't know what the lads think. It'll be interesting to see what they think, but I think he's got a massive problem, Ollie. He's got to do something to free the likes of Sancho. He's got to free Martial as well, because Martial, was moping around as he's done recently on the pitch. I talked about his hold-up play not being good enough as a number 9. We've spoken about Greenwood. I'm glad Abdel noticed the Cavani absence, because that's something I mentioned, as you well know, on Uncut, and I was going to bring up a bit later on. So there are things we can do, but they're only minor tweaks. But there are things that we can do. But anyway, that's just my observations. I don't know what you all think, really.
Yeah, like I was just gonna say that with Martial, I remember him doing one running behind in the first half and one running behind just before he was taken off. And that was it, the entire match. He ended up with 6 passes, and one of the 6 was the kickoff pass. So That's how much he was not involved in the match. And like I'm sure the guy tries to get involved. Like I do not get this. He's disinterested. He doesn't want to play.
Hmm.
There's no footballer like that. But it's just he's not finding himself in the striker role. Like there are certain games where Martial will look amazing. Like I mentioned before, like the City game, the stuff like that. People who play very high line
Yeah.
and you just have to hassle their center backs a little bit, but not run into tight places or not get your leg, between the center backs in the 6 yard box. And but in these games, he's not involved. I don't know if it's a fitness issue or him coming back from 5 months and all that other stuff. I'm not a doctor, not someone who played with fitness and strengthening, so I don't know. But he was a big issue in that game. And the second thing is with the Matic and Fred issue in the build up. Like I was talking with one of the coaches I know here, and he said that at a certain level or age group, players get taught these things. So build up is huge right now because pressing is spreading across countries and continents. The pressing game is very, very, very the big thing right now, and it reached England a bit late to Europe. So building up is being taught at very young ages. And unfortunately for me, sometimes it seems like whether Scott, Matic, or Fred, well, no, Matic actually knows it, to be fair to him, but Scott and Fred, it seems to me that they just don't realize the movements they have to make when your center backs are playing the ball to you. So when we're building up in a 2-4 shape, right? And then you need to make angles because if there's two strikers are pressing your center backs, you need to provide your center back angles to penetrate centrally instead of having them to go to the fullback, then the fullback returns it back, and then you go back to the other center back, and then you go back to the other fullback, and then you keep going in that semicircle. And unfortunately for them, they seem static. There was a couple of times where they did it, and we played out of the back so amazing. And not this game, other games. And I think one of them was a Liverpool game, and I still have the clip from that. Just the fact that they moved away from the center midfielders that are marking them automatically provided Maguire passing angles for him to move the ball away from them, and we just cut through Liverpool at the member at that time. And I don't know if it's recognition. I don't know if someone is telling them they need to make these movements. I don't know if when they were trained when they were younger, they didn't do build up work with them, and that's a massive issue in our build up. Like we can't keep playing with them. As Stu was saying, they will keep hindering us, especially with teams that press high. If you play against a Crystal Palace, they're not going to press you high, no problem. But it's going to be a problem anyway. So that's all I want to say.
Yeah, I completely agree. Charlie, did you have anything to say?
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously this talk around Van der Beek and the midfield and everything, it's all a very complicated issue. It really is quite complicated. And I didn't think about football because I'll be totally honest, because I'm 19, although I look about 12, as a lot of people keep telling me, and I tell myself just to fancy myself. But I didn't think about football as deeply as I do now until like towards the end of last season. It just clicked for me, and I started to analyze the game a lot more. Before that, I was just more of a I think when you watch Man United and you're a Man United fan, you often don't notice things on the pitch. Because you're so passionate and supportive, you're always cheering everybody on. But I started to be more analytical, and I started to understand things more, understand the tactics, understand the structures of teams. And now I'm sort of really, really involved in it all. And I think, obviously, we play with McTominay and Fred. That is obviously our preferred midfield. And I don't think anybody agrees that is sort of the issue for Manchester United to go and win a title, because we won't win a title, obviously, with that midfield, unless there's some sort of injury and COVID crisis among other teams. But I think that because we play with such freedom, particularly Fernandes, and Shaw when he goes down the left. And I think we leave a lot of spaces at times. Obviously, Bruno plays as a sort of second striker at times. A lot of his movements are almost like a number 9. And obviously, Rashford and Greenwood, when they play on the wings, are very much forwards rather than midfielders. So we really play with 4 forwards, sort of Bruno, Cavani, Rashford and Greenwood, we did in the Europa League final. And obviously, having McTominay and Fred in there is very important because we leave a lot of spaces, and they are our 2 quickest players to cover spaces quickly. And obviously, they're hugely important for that. But I think, obviously, the argument around Van der Beek, he is really, I think, a number 10. I think the Ajax manager said he was a number 6, and I tried him in the number 10 position, and that was where he excelled the most. But that doesn't mean that he cannot play a number 6 or a number 8 role. As Stu said before, and I totally agree with him, he's incredibly intelligent, and he does have some very good attributes, particularly to play an 8 in a 4-3-3, and also for certain matches he can play a sort of a deep and number sort of 6 role. But that only works in certain matches, I believe, and only next to the right certain player. But yeah, I agree with what the lads have said about the double pivot. I'm not a great fan of it, but without any new signings, this is what we're going to have to do. There is no other solution really. I understand the point about McTominay. I agree with Stu. I think Stu said, didn't you, Stu? He has the attributes, but not perhaps the discipline, which I agree with. And Fred, we all know, has some really good attributes as well. But does he have the discipline? Matic, we know, although I like him very much and I rate him, he's not going to be the sort of, you cannot start every game and not certain types of games. So we're going to have to persist with it, really. Or the other option we have is to go to a back 3. But I know a lot of people, I know that sort of class as anti-football at times, but it's really not. You see the way that Tuchel's got Chelsea playing. I know we don't have the midfielders to do that. I do understand that. But we do have certain aspects, certain players that could work in certain games with a back 3. And that's certainly not something to be overlooked. I think we've had some really good games with Shaw as a left centre-back. Tuanzebe, I know he's gone on loan. But we've obviously brought Varane in now. We have got some... Matic will be more comfortable, I think, in front of a back 5 as well. So I think we do have some good options. But yeah, for this Wolves game, it's going to be McTominay and Fred, I expect, if McTominay is fit, which I don't know. I think he's been ruled out the internationals, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he has. But yeah, I completely agree with those points. I suppose the final question to ask you guys on a United point of view is obviously the 2 big players brought in, Rafael Varane and Jadon Sancho. Neither have been able to start yet. I'll come to you first, Stu. Is Wolves the game where we see them both come in from the start?
Yeah, well, I would have started Sancho against Southampton anyway. He would have made my starting 11. Varane was probably a bit too quick, but I expect actually to see Varane against Wolves on the weekend. Look, it's a shame for Lindelof because I don't think he's been any worse than Maguire, and I think certainly against. Who did we play the first match? My brain's gone tonight. It's fried.
Leeds, come on.
Leeds, yeah. I thought Lindelof was a better centre half out of the 2. I mean, look, I kind of agree with Charlie as well. I think the idea of the acquisition of Varane was to give Ollie the opportunity to play a back 3 at some parts of the season, certain games, and I think you might even see it employed in European games, depending on our opposition. So I think it was a smart move bringing Varane in for that. But as I say, it'll be unfair on Lindelof, but I expect to see Varane. I expect to see Sancho start. Cavani will go on the bench. I guess with Sancho starting against Wolves, it'll depend, I guess, what he does with Martial. He might throw Martial in. He might not. I don't know. But then that puts Greenwood through the middle. And you know my thoughts on Greenwood through the middle. So it'll be an interesting thing. But I expect to see Sancho definitely. And I expect to see Varane, probably start at the weekend. At the expense of Lindelof, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I certainly hope to see at least one of them. Abdul, I'll come to you. Obviously, I suppose last week was probably a little bit quick to bring Varane straight in. But I thought, Sancho's been at the club for a number of weeks now. He's had a couple of weeks in training as well. Is this the time to bring him in? And so if he does play against Wolves, what is he going to offer that's different to our other wingers?
Well, just simply danger on the right hand side and creativity, really. Because like we've seen multiple times before, people or teams clamp the left hand side just to block United, and many have been successful with it. Now that you have Sancho on the right hand side, and let's say Pogba is on the left, it kind of makes the field compress a little bit because both of them will come inside. But this is where you need your fullbacks to be as high as they can possibly be. And yeah, like I don't see why he shouldn't start. He will be very creative. He knows how to make space and find people with his passes. So that would be very, very helpful. The thing is also that you have to take into account Wolves. That the Wolves we're going to be playing against this season is very different to the Wolves that we've played against the previous 2 seasons. The manager they have right now is completely the opposite of Nuno Espirito Santo. So, so you're not going to be expecting a low block and you're trying to unlock it. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, like just danger from the right hand side, spreading the pitch and creativity really. So that's what Sancho brings. I think it's a good game for Van de Beek, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not in the pivot. I mean, in place of Bruno. Actually, I think Van de Beek will benefit the most out of Sancho, out of any other player. Van de Beek will benefit the most.
No, I agree. I agree. It's kind of almost controversial, that, Abdul, but it isn't. It's true.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of fans won't look at it that way. But you're absolutely 100% right.
Yeah.
The intelligence that Van der Beek has got, the speed, the skill, the pace,
and the way he finds space in the box.
Yeah,
Sancho will find him.
exactly right.
Or he'll make space for Sancho to cut in, and Sancho can shoot himself. So
no, I think you're right.
Yeah, their level of intelligence is very high. They will help each other a lot. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, the way that this new coach plays for Wolves, you're right. It's completely opposite to Nuno, but he's very expansive. I think he came in, and I think one of his first words were, "Forget what Nuno did in the past. Let's look to the future, let the present and the future." And they were unlucky against Tottenham. Traore was man of the match. I think they should have beaten Spurs. At least got a result. The interesting thing about Wolves is they've only conceded 2 goals. They haven't scored yet, apart from obviously forget midweek's game.
Yeah,
but
he has a very good record in keeping clean sheets. That manager as well.
He does, and and they've got a new keeper, haven't they? Sarr, whatever his name is. I don't know too much about him, but from what I've heard, he's my brother takes his kids to watch Wolves. He's going at the weekend, but from what I hear, he's quite a commanding keeper, and he's not bad by all accounts. He's a bit like Martinez at Villa.
Just to give you a hint, people who worked under this manager is Diaz, Cancelo, Silva, Bernardo Silva.
All posers.
Brought him up from the Benfica Academy. Gideon Fernandez, who was at Tottenham now, and he promoted a lot of these players and developed them. So he's expensive. He's not defensive, that's for sure. But he knows how to set up a defensive.
Well, I was about to say, and the results have shown that.
Yeah.
Two goals conceded. So yeah. Sorry, Joe.
I think on that Van der Beek point as well. Obviously, it's not going to go down well saying that he should be in instead of Bruno. But I think with the Sancho point as well, we've seen Sancho thrives with clever players around him. I think that was the argument to bring Martial in as a striker next to him that you can sort of feed off. I think Van der Beek offers you that.
See, that's the problem thing then, because Martial won't make the runs for Sancho, because Sancho is the type of player that wants to create more than he wants to score. So he doesn't take that many shots as much as, well, he does take shots, but not as much as he wants to be the guy that gives you that killer pass, be the guy that finds you in a space. So, and Donny is the guy that likes to run into space and find the space behind the striker, right? So that's why they benefit each other a lot, because this guy's mentality is I want to create for you, and this guy's mentality I will run to the spaces that you can find me in, right? Martial does not run, and that's the problem we have with him. So if Martial doesn't run, Sancho can't play those passes, and then you have and then you have Fernandez, who's the guy like Sancho. I want to create, but he also has the mentality of I want to score. So, but who would you say will benefit them most? It would be Donny van de Beek. I'm not saying that Bruno and Sancho can't play together. They absolutely can. I'm just saying that the guy who will benefit the most would be Van de Beek. And this is also, it goes back to the same argument about why you play him in a pivot and not in a 10 and all that debate. It's because all his attributes and values are closer to the box. It's kind of like as well as Pogba, you know? Why play Pogba higher up is because his values are higher being closer to the box than his value being into the pivot. That doesn't mean Pogba is a bad pivot player. It just means that he doesn't offer as much value being closer up than being at the back. Same thing with Van de Beek. Can he play the pivot? Probably. He will be a bit shaky defensively, but he won't offer the same amount of value being that much back to being closer to the box. That's the whole thing about playing him in a pivot or not playing him in a pivot. It's just like you're using the attributes, his weakest attributes, basically, if you want to put it in lame terms. You're using his not so good attributes just because they're better than Fred or Scott, basically. If you want to know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point there about Martial not running in behind. His other problem is his back to goal play is woeful. You know, he's a big, strong lad, but he's back. So, you know, Sancho could fire a ball into him and you need to get it hold. And then this is where Donny's movement comes in, because Donny could, sprint off him. Martial can control the ball, shake off his centre off, flick it into Donny. We'll have more attempts on goal.
Which is weird, to be honest, because he's done it so well against City a couple of times.
Yeah.
But when he comes up against like a Crystal Palace central defenders or a Southampton central defenders, they always shove him onto the ground when he tries to hold them up, which is, I just can't really figure it out. I know his tendency is I want to receive it to feet and run at players. But the thing is, it's not that he can't do it. It's just he doesn't do it consistently, that hold up.
Absolutely, you know what I mean? Yeah. And he doesn't drag the centre halves out either. It's another a good thing about a good number 9 is you've got to be moving the centre halves all the time.
Greenwood is having that advantage on him right now.
For the movements.
Yeah. If you watch the Leeds game, Greenwood was moving all the time. Even though he didn't assist or score all 4 goals, he had a hand in all 4 of them. If it weren't for his movement, we don't score all 4 goals.
He just needs to learn how to head the ball, Greenwood, and play the 6-yard box. Yeah. It'll be all right.
Yeah. Classics do. Well, just before I come to you, right, Charlie, we've had a special request from Waz, long-time viewer, good lad as well. Abdul, it's a question for you. Please answer. I feel like I'm a bit pressured into asking you this. When everyone's fit, who would you play in your front 3? Obviously, it's a big conversation. It's a big question, and we don't get to see you all that often, so it's probably a question you've not answered on this channel before.
It's tough because I know everybody loves Rashford, but because we come up against a low block all the time, Pogba's value is much higher being on the left than Rashford's being on the left. And then Cavani, and then on the right, I would say Sancho, but I don't have the proof to back it up. You know what I mean? For at the moment. So, but on paper, it should be those 3, to be honest. So Pogba, Cavani, Sancho.
I don't think there's actually much argument with that either, looking at performances. But listen, we'll finish off our talk on attackers. Charlie, obviously Sancho not made an appearance yet, just to round us off. Are you expecting to see Sancho come in? Obviously, everyone wants him to come in, but you know, if he does, what can he do for us?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd hope he's coming. I hope that he'll come in. I think there's more chance Sancho will start than Varane. I'm still not sure Varane's going to start on Sunday. You know, I'm not 100% sure Varane's going to play. I mean, Gary Neville came out with his usual interesting comments saying he's sitting and watching the Premier League we're all doing that from home anyway. So that was an interesting comment. But yeah, I think Sancho should definitely come in. I'd bring Varane in as well, but whether he will, I don't know. Yeah, Sancho is a player who I hadn't watched that much of in terms of sort of full 90 minutes, because YouTube videos and clips, it's not enough. You need to be able to watch a player over a full season, every single game week, because if you watch, I watched Fred's clips before he came to United without watching him full 90 minutes, and he looked like Messi. You know what I mean? You get these false interpretations of players. But Sancho is a fantastic player. I like the way that he can mix up his game. I think he's got very different parts of his game that could be very, very useful for us. I think Abdul made a good point on Wan-Bissaka, and I think you put a tweet out about it the other day, didn't you, as well, Abdul? I read that tweet.
Not a lot of stuff for it.
No, but you speak the truth, mate. You spoke the truth there, because I think Sancho will struggle with Wan-Bissaka. I think he will. I think it might take a bit of time sort of to get used to the dynamic of that. And if you actually watch Sancho, he wasn't too much involved against Southampton. But when he got the ball, he was waiting for people to run into space, and they weren't. It's a completely different dynamic from when he was at Dortmund. So he needs a bit of time to sort of see what's going on here. How is this team operating? Who's running on and off the ball? Which players are sitting? Which players are going? But yeah, I really hope Sancho plays, because if Sancho doesn't play, it will either be Pogba, Martial, Greenwood, or it will be Pogba, Greenwood, James. That will be the team. Obviously, if Sancho doesn't play, and I'm a great fan of Martial, but I'm a little bit worried about him myself. I know he's been out on a long injury, and I've stuck up for Martial a lot of times. I think he gets a lot of unnecessary criticism. But I do think that he had a very, very poor game, and the rest of the team, of course, on Sunday. But Sancho, we need Sancho to start. We need Sancho to get in this team now, and we need to throw him in and get him involved.
I think the best way to get more out of Sancho is to have the number 10 move towards him more. So that would be either Bruno or Van de Beek, because we can play asymmetrically. That meaning that instead of both fullbacks moving up at once, both of them, you can tell Aaron Wan-Bissaka to stay back as in a back three or in the midfield if he wants, and then have Bruno be that guy who's beside Sancho and combine with him, and then they can combine with whoever the striker is, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka would just be a cover for all three of them. But if you're expecting Aaron Wan-Bissaka to do combination work with Sancho, it's not going to be the best, because
I agree with you.
makes the run, then he doesn't make it, then makes the run, then he doesn't make it. It's kind of like an on and off thing with him. But he has a very, I'll be honest with you, he has a very unbelievable accuracy with his crosses, though, in the sense that even though he doesn't cross a lot of his crosses ended up being goals for some reason, which is he's neither efficient nor crosses a lot, but somehow he got more assists and more of his crosses got someone to head it. That's what I'm saying.
That's because, though, to be fair, Abdul, you're right, but he got Haaland in there. Haaland was
no, I'm not talking about Sancho. I'm talking about Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about Sancho. Yeah, I was just about to say, actually, because going on to Charlie's point, it's actually up to Sancho to let the strikers know exactly where he's going to play the ball. Communication on the pitch is absolutely paramount. And Haaland, it was like a sixth sense between them two. Didn't click immediately, but it was like a sixth sense. And you're never going to get that with Martial, and you're not going to get it with Greenwood, but you are going to get it with Eddie, because Eddie is constantly on the move. He drags players everywhere, and he will pop up everywhere in the 18-yard box, and Sancho and Eddie will be rubbing their hands together, for when that combination does actually go. I've just got Red Lord said that I need to pack it in because Martial's hold-up play is better than Cavani. I mean, mate, we all see the game differently, and I love your opinion, but pal, you need to watch and understand what hold-up play is for a number 9, and unfortunately, Martial just hasn't got it. I'm sorry.
I think that most of the people have the opinion that hold up play is the way that Lukaku holds up people.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
It
it's not the
just
same
isn't
way.
that,
It's not
you
the
know.
same thing. Different people have different ways of holding up defenders. Lukaku is aggressive. You try to nick the ball off Lukaku, he will hold you up and put you to the ground if you have to.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But that's not the same way Cavani holds up people, or the same way Martial tries to hold people up.
So
So Cavani is kind of like, I have to play it as fast as possible or be faster than the defender before he puts his body on.
absolutely. Yeah, it's about to say that. He'll step to the left or the right, Cavani will, of the defender. Lukaku will put his arm around the back of the defender, arch his
push him down.
body, and then hold the ball. And there's two different types of playing. You're absolutely right. Cavani will step from side to side. You know, a good centre forward, when the ball's coming into him, he has to have a quick look over his left or his right. You need to feel where your centre half is. And then you do it by a little bit of backing in, or a step to the left, step to the right, or whatever. And that's all Lukaku does. He just uses his left or his right arm. And once he feels him, bang. You're absolutely right.
You can just go back and watch that Arsenal game. He just completely destroyed Bari.
Yeah.
Completely destroyed him. And then watch, actually exercise. Go watch Lukaku, how he hold up Marley on a couple of occasions, and immediately go watch a clip of Cavani and how he holds up people.
Yeah.
Try also to watch Martial right after it, in the City game specifically. You'll see each one of them try something different.
Yeah, it was a different game, the City game. He was on top of his game, Martial was. And when Martial was on top of his game, unfucking playable. He really is. And if Red Lords is talking about that, he's right. Absolutely brilliant. But when you look at Lukaku, when he was playing for us, he didn't adopt the same hold-up play that he did for Chelsea or Inter Milan for us. In fact, he was quite weak at his hold-up play because his first touch was fucking abysmal with us. So, you know, it's just one of those, isn't it? So
I don't want to remember that.
Oh, I know.
Anyway, we've got about 15 minutes or so left, so we'll talk about Wolves. Obviously, they are going under the radar as a dangerous team this season. Obviously, 2 losses so far, but performances haven't suggested that of a team who have lost 2 in a row. So we'll start with key men. Obviously, one I'm going to throw in the ring instantly is a bit of a hot topic around United. It's going to be Ruben Neves. But I think there's also you've got the Adama Traore debate. He's always going to be a bit of a handful. So, Stu, I'll come to you first. How do we nullify these threats that Wolves will inevitably throw at us?
Yeah, well, you've got to get at Wolves. The way to nullify an attacking press inside is actually get at them. It's almost like a couple of boxers in the ring. If you've got a real puncher, you've got to take that out of the equation. So you can't just bob and weave, because if he's got a longer reach, he'll catch you from out far. You need to go in. You need to be aggressive. You need to disrupt Wolves. If we can disrupt Wolves, disrupt their pattern of play, and then get our ball players such as Pogba, Fernandes, Greenwood, whoever's playing, if we can get those on the ball, we'll have a greater chance of getting in behind them. Because as Abdel says, he knows how to defend, this guy. He knows how to defend. He knows how to set up a team, but he'll go for it. At Molineux, with the home crowd, he will go for it. And I think it will play into our hands a little bit. If Solskjaer goes in with Fred and McTominay, which I think he'll do McFred, actually. I think he will play McFred. I think that'll give us a good chance. But for me, I'd pop Van der Beek in there. I know I keep saying it, but I would play Van der Beek, probably with Fred on this occasion. And I think Van der Beek, Fernandes and Pogba, 3, so to speak, floating 3, with 2 up front, whoever those 2 may be, I think will cause Wolves more problems than our 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, fair enough. Well,
sorry to be short and sweet, but that's how I see it.
That's how we like it, Stu. It makes a nice change.
It does for me.
But yeah, Abdul, I suppose Neves, in my mind, is their biggest threat. Obviously, he's able to dictate the game from deep, and especially with a midfield like ours, he could cause us real problems. So how do you think we nullify these threats?
I think Fred and McTominay will play a huge role in this, even though I know people don't want to see them. But they're, unfortunately for us, they're the best combination we have. But yeah, I think they will play a role because this game will have much more space than we previously had against Wolves. Wolves were very, very, very defensive before. A block of 5-3-2, and then just cut them off everywhere. But with this time around, we'll have more space, not as much as Leeds, but we'll have more space, and they will thrive in this game as opposed to, for example, against a high press or in a low block. So I expect the performance to be better. But then again, also you have to remember that it wasn't just a Fred and a Matic issue last game. A lot of people had average performance.
Yeah, it was the group, yeah.
Yeah, Maguire wasn't very good. Lindelof wasn't very good. Aaron Bissaka, it all acclimated. So if everyone at least gives a good 7 out of 10, I see us being able to disrupt their play because we're just, one of it is because we're just better. Two, because they're affording us space, which is our strong point. So Pogba and Bruno, that combination in the midfield will give headaches to Neves and Moutinho or Dendoncker, whoever plays.
He's not playing Dendoncker at the minute, is he? For some reason, he hasn't started the first two. Yeah, he's just playing Moutinho and Neves.
Just Moutinho. I think I don't know if he's going to count on him for every game because Moutinho
Yeah.
is 34.
Yeah.
So, in any case, if it is Moutinho and Neves, I don't think, even though Neves is a good player and is energetic and Moutinho is okay, I don't think they'll be able to handle both Pogba and Bruno.
I totally agree. Doesn't worry me, that partnership at all.
So that will suppress them a lot from dictating the game. And then you just have Scott and Fred break up whatever they can from before. Now, because Adama is on the left-hand side for Wolves, we have Aaron Wan-Bissaka 1v1 with him. It's okay. It will be a test for Shaw because Trincao, the player they got from Barcelona, is actually tricky and he's good on the ball. So it will be interesting to see how Shaw and Trincao battle it out together. And then Maguire and Raul Jimenez. So we'll see that. I don't know how effective is he becoming. He hasn't scored yet, Raul Jimenez. So
I'd imagine he's still a bit worried, to be honest. And I know he's had the all clear and that, and he's wearing this protective head.
He's wearing that. Yeah. I don't think we'll be worried about him early. It will be his runs. Mainly.
Yeah.
So I think Lindelof, if Lindelof is the one plays, I'm hoping it's Varane to see Varane, but I think if it's Lindelof, he will do a good job on Raul Jimenez. He's never had like really a good game against us because we were able to nullify him always. So we'll see. But that's how I play it. Like just disrupt Sakat and McTominay. Neves and Moutinho will be too worried about Pogba coming in and Bruno Fernandes being in the middle. And then because you have I don't know who the centre backs are. Oh no, Saiss, Bolly.
They got Saiss and Kilman, haven't they? They got that new bloke Kilman.
Yeah.
So it's my mate Cody.
Yeah.
Me old mate Connor Cody.
I hope Cavani is the one who starts because they will be too much for Greenwood if he's the one who starts in the middle. So I'm hoping Cavani.
That's what I think. Yeah.
And and I think Sancho will be too much for anyone, Nouri or Saiss from our right hand side, their left hand side. So that's it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah,
I'd agree, and I certainly hope we put out a competent enough side that matches them. Charlie, just to finish off on their threats, then obviously, if you disregard Ruben Neves, I think we've spoken about him enough. Who else in this Wolves team really worries you?
Obviously, Traore. Traore is a threat, and Traore is a threat not because.
Where's Charlie gone?
Oh, this is the first.
I thought I was really scared that was my connection then.
Someone other than Karthik.
One thing I'll say, Abdel noticed that Traore's never had a proper game against us, and it's a very simple reason for that. Wan-Bissaka, he gives him 2 or 3 yards, so he's off him. He's never tight to him because if you get tight to somebody like Traore, if he can outmuscle you and he can get the ball around you, he's impossible to catch. So you've almost got to give him those 2 or 3 yards, or you've got to give yourself as a fullback that time.
That's
to
funny.
recover.
But because Traore played several times on the right-hand side for Wolves against us, which are left, so against Shaw and Maguire.
Sure, Maguire, yeah.
But yet he's never had a good game still. He'd always try to come into the center and Maguire would either stop him or Shaw. So
Well, Shaw
I'm
did the
not-
same. Yeah, Shaw did the same. You've got to, as a fullback and something like that, you've got to give yourself 2 or 3 yards. Because if I was playing against you and I was an absolute freight train, which he is a freight train. If you just face him up, 9 out of 10 times you're going to lose because he's going to overpower you. We know he's quick and we know he's unpredictable and he kind of can dribble and he kind of trips over the over the ball a lot. He's a bit of a comedian, actually, isn't he? But on his day, fucking unplayable, isn't he?
It's very evident when Maguire does it, because especially when we play Leicester, because he understands Vardy so much. He does that exact every single time when Vardy plays against us. He gives himself like a two yards just so that he knows when Vardy makes a run, I can cut him off.
He's got recovery time. Yeah. And Charlie's back. Whee!
I don't know what happened.
Have another go there, Charlie.
Fucking Carthic's back. Fucking hell.
Oh no, I've inherited the terrible internet, haven't I, from him?
Karthik infected you with that.
I was going to say, I'm not too worried about Traore Traore. I'm not worried about what he does. I'm worried about what he can do for Jimenez, because he's created a lot of goals for Jimenez, and obviously you cannot really stop Traore in terms of, like, you cannot really stop what he does. But you can stop what happens when he puts the ball to somebody else, or when he crosses the ball, and you can talk about your position in the box. But it's very, very difficult to actually stop him from running past you. So he's almost one of those players. I think we talked about Lukaku earlier, and I think Gary Neville touched on it as well, and Carragher. There is no point going up against Lukaku. There is no point trying to outmuscle him. You're better off dropping a couple of yards and seeing what he's passing into him behind.
You've just missed all this conversation. That's exactly what we've been talking about.
Is that what you're talking about?
Everything you've just said, we've just spoken
there
about.
There you go. Yeah. Great minds think alike. Eh?
They do indeed. They do indeed. Yeah.
But yeah, Jimenez is obviously a massive threat, but I think he will take a bit of time to just get, I think he will be a little bit worried and his confidence would have been hit, but also in terms of his actual general fitness, because I don't think he's played that much football recently. I think he played a few pre-season games, things like that. But yeah, the thing is with Wolves, Ollie will definitely start McTominay or Matic because of aerial ability, and they have 3 centre halves and Jimenez for set pieces. So he definitely he won't play like Van der Beek and Fred. I think he definitely will play Matic or McTominay. It'll probably be McTominay.
I hope
it's not Matic. I don't think there's too much to be worried about in terms of sort of individual players with Wolves.
The front four are relatively quick. That's the issue. That's the only thing I'm worried about with Matic. It's never a question of quality with him. You know what I mean? It's just can he catch up? Can he move fast? That's all thing.
But the thing is, Moutinho and Neves are not a very, what's the word? They're not a very energetic midfield too.
I'm worried about
But Semedo, he's worried about Semedo and Martial, and that's who he's worried about. Yeah, which I agree, by the way. Semedo, yeah, absolutely.
Semedo but he's very poor one-on-one defensively. If we can get at him,
he's good going forward.
He's very good going forward, but very really poor defensively. So there might be goals. I mean, there's normally not many goals when we play Wolves, but there might actually be a few goals on Sunday.
Well, it's normally a Neves fucking 30-yard screamer, isn't it? That douses the fire. It's always Neves.
But you know what? It's funny. I watched an interview for him, Neves, and he was saying that when they were preparing for games against Manchester United, they knew that the players are slow to come out of their box when at set pieces, and he's always going to stand outside of the box so that they pass him the ball to take a shot. And he was describing the goal he scored in 1920 against us. And it was like, I took a bad touch, but they were still slow to getting out, that I had the time to take another touch and shoot the ball.
Well,
I was like, wow, that's just bad, Like,
well, look at Luke Ayling's goal against us.
Yeah.
Look at Luke Ayling's goal against us. He had a bad. His touch took it 2 yards away from him, and that's what prompted his strike. But we were still nowhere near it. when he ended
But,
up.
like, despite Pogba being almost flawless in that game, I think that goal was a bit on him a little bit because Killing was his man, and
He
he
was, yeah.
completely forgot about him.
But yeah,
But-
you can forgive him for that one.
Yeah, but
can't
you can forgive him. He's going to give you 4 assists, right? So
A little indiscretion, just a tiny one.
you can't say anything.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we've talked about obviously personal threats. Just to end off this whole conversation, then I want to talk about the shift in system from Wolves. I think it's worth mentioning because this isn't the same drop deep, try and protect 1-0 leads sort of side that we saw last season under Nuno. Obviously, Bruno Lager, I don't know how you pronounce his last name, but he's come in. He's obviously made them instantly more proactive. I think there's a stat that someone brought up. Obviously, I'm assuming it's correct in that 70 shots in the last 3 games. Obviously, up to their pressing intensity as well. So I'll open it up to the floor. Whoever wants to jump in. So what do we need to?
That's okay then. 70 shots is great because they can't fucking score, can they? I know they popped between 4 against Forest, but I mean, they didn't score a decent percentage against Leicester or Spurs, did they? He has slightly changed them, to be fair. Yeah, they play a 3-4-3. But it's a progressive 3-4-3 with the 2 wing backs able to just slot in to make a 5 or push in to make a 5 in attack, really. So it's quite a fluid formation, and they've got the players. Actually, it's strange. He's actually got players to kind of fit his formation to a T. He's moulded, one for the better word, quite a good starting 11. They've got not a great deal coming off the bench, have they? I think. They tend to bring on that Fabio Silva, that youngster. Yeah, he's only about 19, isn't he? Bless him. He's not particularly what you would call prolific or anything of that nature. So I think if you can nullify their starting 11, then I think you should be
pretty much done.
Yeah, for the match. So
their squad still suits a 3-4-3. That's why he stick with it. He usually plays the 4-4-2. Well, that looks like the 4-2-3-1 when in possession, but at Wolves. He stuck with the 3-4-3. Yeah, and like Stu said, like beyond their first 11, you really are not gonna get much of a threat. But for the I laughed so hard at 70 shots they can't score. But yeah, they are very proactive. I think they took 25 shots against Tottenham alone.
Yeah, they did.
So
and didn't net. But no, the thing is though, you've got to be in there. You play lottery, don't you? Sooner or later, you're going to play the lottery. You're going to hit the fucking jackpot.
Yeah,
they're going to have 5 shots and score 5. So,
but I would suggest that our defensive, even despite the problems we had against Southampton, our defensive work shape was pretty good. So I don't think they would have the chance to do something similar at all with us.
Agreed. Yeah, agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's a good analysis to sort of round us off then. So, yeah, it's a day early. We're looking forward to the weekend. Obviously, we would usually do these on Thursday, but hopefully this sticks in everyone's mind when they're watching us batter Wolves on their own ground. Touch wood. Don't want to do a stew. But yeah, that sort of brings an end to our show, I suppose. So, Stu, Charlie, Abdul, massive thank you for joining me.
No, pleasure.
You made me look good yet again, and I appreciate you for that. As ever, massive thank you to everyone who's watched, obviously commented as well. We've got loads and loads of comments today. It was really good to get you guys involved, asking some great questions as well, which helps me. It's not really done anything today, have I? But yeah, like I said, we'll definitely be back on Friday. I'm not sure if there's a video any sooner, but tune in for Timeline Talk on Friday. I'll see if I can get any of these lovely gentlemen on with me. But yeah, until then, we'll see you next time.